All right, so good morning once again, everyone, and good morning to our online viewers as well. Welcome to today's session, which is more or less infrastructure as a code using AWS. I want to welcome our guest speaker that is joining us in person of Bob Adewusi. Who will be giving more of his introduction and be speaking about him very soon. But before we go into further details, I'd like to welcome our participants, both online and both offline. I'd want to welcome you into today's section. It's really been a while. I think this is the first session I kind of hold in this particular year. And it's really been an awesome year so far. And it's really lovely getting to see our faces once again. In terms of, I would like to get to hear from one or two persons quickly how we've been faring in terms of our AWS cloud journey. What has been the thing that has kind of you've been working on lately? Anyone? Don't feel shy. Just get to talk about what you've been doing so far in AWS. Anything, both online and offline. Anyone?
So for me, I would like to make AWS OCR, which is the AWS SR, to convert, to recognize handwritten text. Okay. So good morning, everyone. So far, I've been trying to make use of AWS. I've been trying to make use of AWS OCR to kind of run a project that recognize handwritten English text. So after that, I want to convert it to like text to speech. It's more like this kind of Google Lens that have been all over everywhere that I've been using. So I want to incorporate such kind of idea and run it, and I'll make use of AWS services. So I think that's pretty what I've been doing with AWS recently. So I just hope to get it done and see how it goes.
Wow, awesome. A round of applause for you, please. Awesome. We are getting to hear how people are leveraging on AWS cloud services, building awesome solution, and that's really incredible to hear. That's really amazing to hear. I don't know anyone from the comment section, from the online section that wants to more or less really talk about one or two things they've been working on recently. Anyone, you could just go ahead and type that on the comment section, and we'll be glad to read that as well. But in interim, yes, I just want to welcome once again, and so we are kicking off now, and this more or less lead me into the introduction of the session today. So we're talking about infrastructure as a code in AWS. So a lot of people are really like, when I'm talking about infrastructure as a code, what does it mean? What does it mean? So today we'll really be diving deep into what infrastructure as a code is. And we have the guest speaker that will be taking us or walking us through that today. And it's someone that I've had the opportunity to work with. Is like a cloud guru. So, but I would not really want to really go into details yet. But we have someone that will really take us through and walk us through infrastructure as a code in AWS, making use of a couple of services and exploring the services hands-on as well. So we'll be having a workshop later on. After the speaker is done, we'll be having a workshop as well, just more or less for him to have a hands-on experience on infrastructure as a code. So thank you very much. I think Moses is having a comment here. I think he said he has been working on something on networking, making use of VPC, Elastic IP, and S3. That's really amazing. Kudos to you. Thank you very much for stating that. All right. So without much further ado, I would want to call the speaker so that we can actually begin the session, because time is really of the essence currently. So I would want to call the speaker to come speak. All right, so Bob Adewusi is a seasoned DevOps cloud engineer with a diverse background in deploying scalable infrastructures and automating cloud environments. Currently, Bob works as a DevOps engineer in Seamless HR and at Nethermind, where he contributes to blockchain application pipelines and ensures system resilience. His expertise spans AWS, GCP, and Azure environments, leveraging tools like Terraform, Ansible, and Jenkins. He has previously mentored students in cloud engineering at Udacity and held key roles at Seamless HR and Utito Technologies, driving efficiency in cloud solutions. Bob holds a bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering and is an AWS community builder. Bob has had experiences working with Microsoft, AWS, Udacity, Nethermind, Ford, Buzalen, he's too much, and others. With a round and resounding of applause, can we welcome Bob Adewisi to take us on the section Infrastructure as a Code? Round of applause, please. And thank you
Thank
very
you
much.
very much, guys. Can you guys hear me? Can everybody hear me? All right.
Yeah, you can go on. We can hear you. Thank you very much.
All right. So I'm going to be presenting my screen as I just take us through um, what I prepared for us in the slide. Right. Please, can you confirm if you can see my screen?
Yes, I can see your screen.
All right, thank you very much, guys. I can't see anybody, so it looks like I'm just, it looks like I'm talking to myself. But it's been an interesting times. I think I was here last year too, and I think it's been an immense journey. I think I spoke about security last year, if I can properly remember that. And today we are talking IaC. It means that shows growth. From where we left off, to this point, and that's the most important thing as an engineer is that you must never stop growing, right? I always tell people that when this tech world can literally leave you behind. You can think, oh, you've known something, oh, you are good now, and then in the next 2-3 months there's AI that takes away everything that you think that you are valuable for. And so IaC is one of those tools that that is expedient for an engineer, right? It's easy for you to deploy things on the console. I'm going to tell us something that one of my managers told me one time. He said, Bob, if you want to keep deploying on the console or on the web, he says, just go and get yourself a PS5, and just start playing games. So what he was trying to tell me is that doing deploying things, spinning off resources, using the web console, those things are child's play, basically, right? And so when you begin to grow, when you begin to do things even better, you begin to move to automating things. And I say, as a DevOps engineer, it is a culture. Well, I'm going to put DevOps and cloud engineer because they kind of like go hand in hand, right? As a cloud engineer, what we want to do or what we are trying to achieve, the culture that we are trying to emanate and express is that we want to be able to automate things as much as possible. I'm just going to put it as that. And so what we are particular about is automating things as much as possible, right? We are the soft life guys. We don't want to have to do something over and over again. If I did it today, I'll come and do the same thing again tomorrow. No. If you are doing that as an engineer, as a cloud engineer, as a DevOps engineer, as an infrastructure engineer, or whatever the variance of that category is, if you are doing that as an engineer, then you are not really still practicing best practices, right? You're not doing what the best thing is. And so that takes me to what infrastructure as a code. And I really want to appreciate Emmanuel. I want to appreciate everybody that has put this event together, AWS, in Unilag, and to everybody also here. I really want to appreciate you for this opportunity to be able to speak to you, on this topic. And I don't really want to waste too much of our time because I want us to have time to be able to treat questions if possible. All right. So IaC is very important to every engineer because IaC kind of like reinforces our position or our culture as an engineer, as a cloud engineer, or any of its variants, right? So it reinforces our position that we want to automate things as much as possible. You see, when we start thinking like that, we begin to look at things, and I want us, as I'm talking like this, I want us to look at certain things that we used to do over and over again. Like, what you might be doing might be, you're spinning up EC2 instances. So it means that for every time you want to do something on an EC2 instance, you have to go to the console, click on new instances, click on do instance name, set up a VPC, set up all of those things that you have to do. Imagine every day you need to provision at least about 400 clients every day. Would you be able to finish it in a day? No, absolutely not. You cannot finish it in a day. I used to work when I got to Seamless HR, and this is just an insider secret. Please don't tell them I told you this, right? When I first came to Seamless HR, they used to run all their workloads on EC2 instances, right? And so it means that for every new client that we add, we needed to provision an EC2 instance for them to run what they need to run. And so in a day, you can have 10 clients. In a day, you can have 20 clients. In fact, there are times where we need to pull down some clients. It means you want to destroy or shut down the instances, right? And so in a day, you might have 10, 20, 50, 100, and whatsoever that number is. So it means that if it is left to doing it manually, then that would only probably be the focus of our day every single day, and it would not make us efficient, it will not make us productive, and it will not make us even reliable, because we would we would be prone to mistakes. And so one of the things that IaC, the engineers looked at it, some engineers looked at it and they were like, okay, you know what? I think there's a better way for us that we can do these things, which is a way where we can spin off resources, in a very consistent manner, in a very repeatable manner, with little or no manual errors, right? And that was what gave birth to IaC. IaC is called infrastructure as a code. Sometimes you might not see IaC, sometimes you see IaaC. It's the same thing, infrastructure as a code. And so what is the purpose of infrastructure as a code? And before I even talk about infrastructure as a code in AWS, so I think I'm starting to first of all build our foundational understanding about why it even came about in the first place, right? For you to know the why is for you to know why exactly you want to use it, right? And so if your manager comes to tell you and say, you know what, we need to move to IaC, or you come into a space, right, and you see that they keep doing things repeatedly, and there is no form of script or a code that spins it up instantly, then something will tell you that something is wrong there. That is how you can give your best input to any company that you work with. And that's why I used to tell people that they don't employ you for your knowledge, they employ you for what you can bring to the table. So you might know whatever things that you know, but if you're not bringing value, they are just literally wasting money paying you. That's why you see that when Elon Musk took over Twitter, they laid off so many employees. Why? It's not because they were not good engineers. It's probably because they were not as valuable as they should be, to the company at that point in time. And so I think I already, okay. All right. So when we talk about infrastructure as a code, basically, we are talking about putting infrastructure as a code. I literally want you to read that line again. Sometimes we are used to these keywords that we don't know that the meaning of the whole thing is in the word itself, infrastructure as a code. And so when we talk about infrastructure, we are talking about everything that has to do with servers, networking, secret managers, everything that has to do with all of those things. We want to convert them into a code. And so that we can best package it. So we can package it like every other developer. People ask me, as a DevOps engineer or as a cloud engineer, do you write code? I tell them, yes, I do write code. And say, okay, what language? I tell them, I probably might not write JavaScript. I probably might not write Python. I probably might not write Go. Of course, you should do all of those things if you can. But you see, one thing that you would never escape is writing infrastructure as a code. It is something that you would never escape in your life. And so if you are coming into this space thinking, oh, I'm not going to be writing any code, then you're already wrong. So you probably want to find a new, you want to find a new path, career path. But you can't escape it. Of course, it might not be the traditional way of writing it, and I'm going to be explaining a couple of things later on. But it kind of like gives you a way to convert all of those infrastructure. You see those EC2 that you have running on your AWS, your Kubernetes cluster, your Lambda function, whatever it is that you can think of that is on AWS or that is on any cloud platform, it can be converted into code. And why? What are the benefits of that? We have consistency, like I told us. It means that if I have something as a code, right? Even if I am not in the company again and somebody wants to spin that same resource up, right? With the code, you can easily spin it up and it will spin up exactly what I would have spinned up, or it will spin up exactly what I would have created. That means there is no change in manual, there is no change due to there is no change in the results due to the change in the personnel. I don't know if you get what I'm trying to say. So there is no change in the result due to a change in the personnel because it is code. So that is why I might build an app, for my company, and they can sack me tomorrow, and somebody can come in and use that same code to run exactly what I have been working on. So it gives you the ability to be consistent with your infrastructure. Another way I would explain the consistency is that, to some of us that are working currently, we understand that, in a development life cycle, majority of the time you have three different environments. So you have the dev environment, you have the UAT environment or the staging environment, and then you have the prod environment. I mean, basically, some people have more than that, right? And so sometimes the infrastructure that we provision for our dev, and because we want to test, we want to make sure that we are doing chaos engineering, we want to do fault tolerance, we want to do disaster recovery, and all of those beautiful things that we do in the test environment. After we have gotten that, majority of the time we don't want to start from the beginning again to create a new one for dev. So majority of the time we branch out from the dev environment and we make some tweaks to it for it to give us our UAT environment. And our UAT environment is usually very close to what a production environment is, if not even the same thing, right? And so it means that same code, I can just spin it up for production without any change, without any time wasted. So it gives me that consistency across different environment and repeatability, like I've explained to us also. You can repeat it 1,000,001 times and it will give you the same result. Of course, there's some stubborn errors that pop out every now and then, but majority of the time it will give you the same result if you do not change anything, right? And then we talk about version control, right? I work some in sign like companies like Nethermind. You can tell the kind of number of engineers that they have. Like, we are so many engineers, working in a company like Nethermind. Imagine a company like I used to work as a support engineer for Azure, right? Imagine the number of engineers that they had. I work with Seamless HR now. We have quite a number of engineers. Now, imagine that we need to all work on an infrastructure. How do we go about it? That is what IaC provides for us. And so somebody can be creating VPC and the networking part. I can be creating, the servers that are needed. Somebody else can be creating the lambdas that are needed. Somebody else can be creating secret managers that are needed. Somebody else can be creating the IAM policies and all of those things that is needed. Now, we need to find a way for all of us to work together so that I don't apply the EC2 before the VPC or the networking is done, or I don't start creating lambdas before every other things are done. So we begin to understand that what IaC provides for us is it provides for us a medium for us to collaborate, right? A medium for us to even version our infrastructure. So I can, by virtue of IaC, I can trace how we have improved as a team, as an infrastructure team over the years. And so that way it gives us a sense of growth. It gives us a way for us to measure how far we have grown, right? And that's one of the beautiful things that happens, that IaC provides for us. It gives us speeds and efficiency. I can provision a whole infrastructure in minutes, guys. A whole infrastructure. I can provision it in minutes. I can provision dev, UAT, and production environment in just a minute. Before IaC was in existence, you would have to do dev first. If dev is taking you 2 hours, you have to spend 2 hours creating dev, 2 hours creating UAT. With errors, that give or take, you will be spending like 3 hours or more, and then maybe another 3-4 hours again on. So for like 2 days, you would be creating only infrastructures. But with infrastructure as a goal, it gives you a way to be able to do these things in minutes. Right, so it gives us speed and efficiency in our infrastructure deployment. And so we have different types of IaC, right? We have the declarative ones, we have the imperative ones. And so for the declarative ones, you kind of like just tell it what you want. And so let's say I want 5 oranges as my result. I don't need to tell it, oh, go to the market, go and do this. After you do that, go to the fruits aisle, pick up the fruits and then put the fruits in the basket. Then go and do a checkout. Then bring the fruits home for me. That is not what is being done. What I do is I just tell it I want 5 oranges. I don't care whatever process it requires for it to get me that 5 oranges. It just gets me the 5 oranges. And that is what declarative IaC means, with CloudFormation, with Terraform, and even other guys. So you declare, you command it, give me this, and it gives you that. While for imperative, the imperative one is the one I just described. You are telling it the step-by-step for what it should do, right? You are telling it, pick up the orange, go to the market, pick up the orange from the fruits aisle, go to the checkout. After you check out, then take your transport back home, then bring it home, then peel it for me, then give me to drink. You see, all of those ones are called imperative IaC. You are giving it a step by step for what it should do, the process it should take for it to give you your results. And we see things like that with Ansible and Chef. And so, but me, I enjoy declarative method. I don't want to bother myself about, okay, what should he do before he does this one, I just want it to give me what I need. And that's what CloudFormation and Terraform provides for us. I think I already so I already did slide 2 here. And so why use IaC in AWS? So we are trying to do a focus on AWS. I've used AWS probably for, I don't know, maybe like 5 years now, if not more. Right. I think I first started getting to know about AWS when I was in university. When I was in my final year, that was when I started learning about AWS. I tried to learn, but it was not really entering that time until later entered. Right. And so why do we use IaC in AWS? To some of us here that have done certain things in AWS, you know that you can do one thing now, and if you want to repeat it tomorrow, you just feel like you just don't get it anymore, right? You can spin up I remember those times I would spin up an IaC, an EC2 instance, and I want to create it again, and I just feel like I'm missing something. And majority of the time, it is that I miss the instance role I'm supposed to attach to it. There was a time where I'd created an instance, but I could not connect to the instance. I could not, using Session Manager, I could not connect to the instance. And I'd done it yesterday. So what was I missing? In fact, do you know that I spent hours trying to figure out what I missed. And what I missed was just me attaching an instance profile to the instance. But you see, what that eliminates for us with IaC, it eliminates that waste of time. And so another thing that it does, one of the things that, the reasons why we use IaC in AWS, it gives us the ability to be able to scale seamlessly. So using the declarative method, if I have 2 instances running and I want to make it 5, I can just go back like the normal way you will edit a file, remove 2, put 5, press whatever it is that you are using, either Terraform or CloudFormation, run it, and it automatically changes without you having to do anything, without you having to go and create a new instance, or without you having to go and create an auto-scaling rule and start attaching the auto-scaling rule to the instance. You see, all of those steps, you don't need to do it because it gives you the ability to scale, without any so much effort. And it gives you the ability to automate your infrastructure. Like I told you, that you can easily use version, what do they call it now? Like Git GitHub, whatever it is to store your infrastructure, and you can also run it using pipelines. So you can use GitHub Actions, you can use Bitbucket pipeline, you can use GitLab CI, whatever CI/CD pipeline that you use, you can also use it to automate your infrastructure. And because one of the things that automating infrastructure does for you is that imagine you run every of your company's infrastructure on your laptop, and one day your laptop crashed, or your or someone stole your laptop, or water poured on it and you can't work that day, or there is no internet. Now it means that you're going to stall everybody from doing whatever it is that they can do. But with version control and with automation, I can set an automated script and a pipeline that tells my infrastructure to run at a particular time. I can say, you know what, like currently with in Seamless HR, we have several clusters running. We have clusters for I'm talking about Kubernetes, clusters for dev environment, UAT environment, and and production environment. And we know that production environment is the one that is majorly needed, because you don't really need, especially after work hours, you don't really need the dev environment and the UAT environment majority of the time after work hours and even on weekends. So what do? We were able to set an automated CI/CD pipeline that shuts down the infrastructure at a particular time, and it shuts it down at a particular time. It spins it back up at a particular time. So by 6 p.m. at night, it shuts every dev and UAT environment, and by 6 a.m. in the morning, it restarts them. So with that, we are able to save costs. Right, we are able to save cost with that, and again, it is automated. You don't need to go, and in fact, I might not even remember I've not done it. It just triggers by itself. You see, that is one of the beautiful things that IaC provides for us. Without that, I would have to go and imagine me having to go and shut down every server, every instance. I don't think I can do that. To be honest, imagine when you have hundreds of clusters, like companies like Nethermind, where you have hundreds of clusters, running validators and all of those things. You can't. I'm not even going to lie to you. You can't. There's a day you would make mistake. There is a day that you will forget to shut down one. There's a day your network will be bad and you will not be able to shut it down on time. There is a day that somebody will run something at one particular time, and you just messes things up. So those are the things that automation provides for us. Security and compliance, you are able to state and declare your permissions, even using IaC, and you can easily replicate it for other people. There are times where you create a user, right? You give it permissions, and then you want to create for another user. Sometimes you can miss out on one permission. It happens before. It has happened to me before. Where there was a time I was trying to, I don't know how many more minutes do I have. So there was a time I was trying to, as much as possible, I want to get an AWS secret, from secret manager into my pod in my Kubernetes cluster. And so it required that there are assigned permissions and, trust policies I needed to put in place. I've done it before. There's a time when you are trying to do something for the first time, you are just doing a lot of research, implementing a lot of things, and maybe you're not necessarily documenting, right? And I wanted to do it again the next day, and I didn't know what I did. I know I did something here, but I could not tell what permission I did. And so it means that I had to do my research again to come and implement that. And so, but with IaC, you can easily declare it, you can state your permissions, and you can easily use it anytime that you want. So without having to forget, oh, I missed one permission, I missed another permission, or you can easily add a permission without having to, even log into your console at all. You'll be surprised that there are some people that never get into the console. Like me, majority of the time, I don't go into the console to do anything. Majority of the time, because everything I want to do has already been declared in an IaC format, and I just implement as needed. So let me just quickly run through CloudFormation. So CloudFormation is specific. We have different infrastructure as a code tools. We have Terraform, which I'm sure everybody popularly knows. We have TerraGrunt. We have Bicep in Azure. We have Google templates in Google. We have what's the name of this one again? We have quite a number of them, right? But the one that is specific to AWS is called AWS CloudFormation. Now, one of the things I have to tell you about this is that AWS CloudFormation, you cannot use it outside of AWS. It is only specific to AWS. In fact, that is why it is called AWS CloudFormation. And so it's also a declarative IaC service, like I've explained to us. And what what AWS, CloudFormation would practically do for us is that, it has some set of templates that you can easily just spin up. And so you have the EC2 templates, you have the Lambda template. So you don't need to go and rack your head to start looking for those scripts. He already has a whole lot of templates for you. He organizes, he can organize resources for you in manageable stacks. You can have a Kubernetes cluster, CloudFormation templates already. So I don't need to go and start researching, getting scripts to spin up the networking part, to spin up the nodes, to spin up the node pool, to spin up the securities and all of those things. I don't need to do that because CloudFormation already has a template that I can just apply. I can just apply it automatically. I can make changes to it automatically. And then it gives me a rollback capability. So in case there is an error, you can easily roll back, because of failure. But one thing, of course, these things have their limitations, right? One of the limitations for CloudFormation it can be, it has limited flexibility, in complete logic. So because it is majorly defined into sets, into stacks, there's a bit of flexibility limitation that compared to other agnostic tools like Terraform that you can easily use. And I'm just going to go to CDK. Now, CDK is also an IaC tool because it can spin up infrastructure as a code. But this one supports not the normal, coding languages that we know, right? Like TypeScript, like Python, like JavaScript, like Java. Imagine you can write an EC2, you can write an EC2 script in Python. Yes. So this is what CDK provides for you. It gives you a lot of framework where it gives you ability to use an high-level framework, for defining your cloud infrastructure. And I think I used it in one AI company I worked with, JSON.ai. And so they have we have a machine learning we have a machine learning application that we wanted to run on our infrastructure. And there was this kind of little complexities that we needed to do on the application, and we had to use CDKs to do that. And so there are times where you want certain specific things that you can only write, and it comes naturally to developers, especially with MLOps people. If you're an MLOps person, you cannot just be an ops person. You cannot just say, oh, I'm just an infrastructure person. No, there's nothing like that. You would have to be a dev and an ML dev and also be an operations person. And so there will be a need for you to combine both. And CDK provides the ability to be able to combine, your dev skills with your infrastructure skills. And that's why you can see that you can write some infrastructure thing, some infrastructure using Go language, using Python language, using C# and all of these things. So this is what CDK kind of like provides for us, and then you can easily integrate it with CI/CD for automated deployment, and it kind of has some advantages over CloudFormation. Improved maintainability and object-oriented design. I'm sure we probably have an understanding of that. I'm trying to race against time, and it eliminates less repetition. And for people that are dev guys or people that are coming from the dev background, you are able to read it better because of your dev background, because of the way you write code and all of those things. You're able to read it better because with infrastructure as a code, sometimes you really don't even know what is going on there. If you're not really familiar with it yet, it's really hard for you to know what's going on there. So, but for someone that is used to writing code, maybe you started off from a dev background as well, so it gives you better readability, and then you can understand your applications even better. And you can use this to create custom deployments, right? I can use it to create a deployment that is probably specific to my company. And you can also use it to create a deployment that is probably specific to your company, and then you can also automate it. So we have several reward applications of IaC in AWS. Please, it's not even limited to this one. In fact, I tell you that there is almost nothing that you cannot spin up using IaC in AWS? Almost nothing, because there are some things, yes, there are maybe some new services that just came in, and you can't really define them using IaCs yet. And sometimes you need some granular control over certain things, and they might not be available over IaC yet. Recently I was working with Huawei Cloud, right? And then there are certain little things that you want to do and that you want to implement that is not available yet, in an IaC form. And so sometimes it's not all, but almost everything. I heard that guy that was trying to set up did it OCR or something on AWS. You can do all of those things, using IaC tool. For anybody building any projects, just know that there is almost nothing that you cannot do with an IaC tool. And I think I wrote down a case study here. Maybe you can try it. You can use CloudFormation. I think Moses was saying, oh, he was spinning up VPC, EC tools, and networking components, on the chat. You can use an IaC to do that. You can set up CloudFormation, or you can use Terraform, whatever it is that you want to use to do that. You can do it using IaC. I always recommend Terraform, because I believe Terraform is more cloud agnostic. So it gives you also a wide range of support and a wide range of documentation that you can use to implement. And it's easily readable, and then you are not vendor locked into. You're not locked into AWS. So it means that the day that you cannot log into your AWS, or you don't have, or your password is wrong, or something is wrong, you're not locked in out of that. So you can still implement using Terraform and all of those things. So you can try several other things. I'm just going to skip down to best practices when you're running IaC. I said that number one, you have to automate deployments. Please ensure that when you're running IaC, as much as you want to have it on your local machine, run it on your local machine and all of those things, make it a best practice to integrate it into a pipeline. Integrate it into a pipeline. Ensure that it is running independent of your local machine. It is running even. If you don't know how to, there's a way for you to automate in Azure pipelines. There's a way for you to automate in GitHub Actions. There's a way for you to automate in Bitbucket pipeline. There's a way for you to automate in Jenkins. No matter what CI/CD pipelines you're using, ensure that you are always available. You are always able to, just try it out, and it's very easy. You don't need to run Terraform apply, Terraform plan. You don't need to run all of those things. You just need to trigger your CI/CD pipeline, and it runs it for you without you having to do anything, right? And of course, when defining IAM roles and policies, ensure you use least privileges. Use secret manager for to maintain and manage secrets if you're going to be using secrets within the context of your IaC. Tag resources. One of the things that I believe people fail to do is tagging resources properly. You need to be able to tag resources, especially if you are deploying for different environments or different products. Ensure that you are tagging your resources properly, and set up cost monitoring and alerts too, for you to know when you are exceeding your budget, while deploying this. And so, in conclusion, IaC, enables scalable, consistent, cost-effective, least repetitive, infrastructure management. And of course, we have specific to AWS, we have CloudFormation, CDK to enhance automation and developer productivity, and even to infrastructure guys as well too. And we have other tools that are also IaC. You have Terraform, you have Bicep, you have TerraGrunt, you have TerraTest, you have Chef, Ansible. All of these things are IaC tools. So please ensure that you get your hands on with those things. And I think that's the end of my presentation today. Thank you very much, guys.
Wow. Awesome. That was a very lovely session. I cannot thank our speaker enough. I think he has walked us through a lot, especially when it comes to infrastructure as a code tools, making use of AWS. One thing I'd want to really get to, I think one of the things that really stands out for me is really versioning your source control code. And I think it's one of those things that Even when I was working, I've kind of incorporated, and that's kind of like helped me to be able to um, refer back to older versions of my source code as well, for in case I'm kind of like making a mistake even in a new one, and I'm able to go back to that one to be able to like reference what was missing and be able to like implement that in my new code. And I think it's really really cool that you can actually version control your infrastructure as a code as well. And I think I mean our speaker has really done justice to this, and we cannot thank our speaker for what he has really like done this morning. But quickly, we'll move into the Q&A section. So for people that get to have questions, you can actually put those questions on the comment sections, and you can ask your questions. For those currently physically, you can actually as well signify if you have questions, and you can ask your questions. So the floor is open currently for questions. So for those people that have questions as regards infrastructure as a code, on what the speaker has really spoken about, if there are any questions, you can come forward and quickly get to ask those questions. Oh, okay. All right. So I think we have someone here. Isiaka Afiz is asking a question. I think I projected that. So what's your opinion on comparing AWS CDK and other IaC tools? I don't know if you want to take that real quick before we take the next question, or should I take the next question?
Maybe we should just see all the questions and then.
Oh, okay. All right. The next question from Moses Adekombi is asking, what troubleshooting practices can you recommend when you run into an error while using CDK, mostly configuration errors?
All right, thank you very much. I'm going to start with the first one. All right. I think the first question is, what's my opinion on comparing AWS CDK with other IaC tools? I would say first of all, they have every no matter what tool they are using, every tool has its pros and its cons. You know, I'm going to give you some for AWS CDK. I think CDK uses familiar programming languages, like TypeScript, the Python, JavaScript. Most of us are familiar with all of these things, so it kind of like helps us to really just continue, from what we have known, and it gives us ability to modularize and reuse our applications, and so you can create reusable constructs or components that follow best practices and speeds up your development processes as well too. And so as a native AWS tool, CDK has first class support. It is always up to date with the latest AWS services and features. In fact, even before Terraform has it, because of course they want to give priority to their own services even before all of those guys. And so even before Terraform has it and all of these other people, it is first provided for CDKs and all of those things. But it has its cons too. Number one is that you can be AWS locked in. Right? It means that you will primarily be designing only for AWS. So it means that to be limiting your ability to port these services or these designs even to other cloud providers. And it can while managing complex deployments across multiple AWS accounts and regions, and it can be a bit challenging, it can be a bit complex as well, right? And so, but with other IaC tools, you can work with multiple cloud providers, and you can make it ideal for. Even in Nethermind, we had multi-cloud deployments, right? We had multi-cloud deployments, so we had deployments in GCP, we had deployments in, was it AWS? Yeah, I think we had deployments in AWS as well too, and we needed to interact, for the two of them to interact together because the services were in both cloud platforms and they needed to interact together. And so it means that we cannot use an IaC tool that is only specific, to one, to only specific to one, to one cloud platform. So that made using an agnostic kind of like so all in all, I'll say that CDK is ideal if you are fully committed to AWS and you prefer using programming languages over JSON or YAML format. So and then but Terraform is the go-to for multi-cloud environments, and Pulumi kind of like there's also a tool called Pulumi, so it kind of like bridges the gap between CDK and Terraform. It offers cloud agnostic support with real programming languages as well too. So you have a combination of cloud agnostic tool in Terraform, and you have that programming language choice as well with Pulumi. So Pulumi kind of like integrates the two of them together. So yeah, but again, the choice is left to your specific design, your specific process, and what you specifically want to do. So I'm going to go to the second question. Moses wants me to help him troubleshoot his error. So I'm going to go to the second question and say, what troubleshooting practice can you recommend when you run into an error while using CDK? Well, I think first of all, everybody has different troubleshooting processes that they go to. I'm more of a very analytical person, and I love to eliminate the things that are not to enable me see the things that are, right? And so one of the first things I want to do is I want to understand the error message. Sometimes I need to put the error message on Google just so I can get an understanding that points me to something. Sometimes you see, so you want to understand if it's a synth error or a deploy error or a runtime error. So a synth error will most majorly occur when converting CDK code to CloudFormation templates. So these are typically syntax error or logic issues, right? I think you also have deploy errors, and so they are usually due to IAM permissions, missing resources, or incorrect configuration in CloudFormation as well. So, why with runtime errors, they happen when resources are created but do not work as intended, and majority of the time it is due to misconfigurations or even dependencies. And so another way you want to check after that, after you've been able to eliminate that, understanding the error message and which one it points to, if it's a syntax error or a deployment or a deployment error or a runtime error. If it's any of that, or if it's none of that, then you go to the next step. The next thing I want to check is I want to validate the CDK code locally. I want to check for syntax error, you can use the linter for your programming language, or ESLint for TypeScript. So it helps you kind of like underline certain syntaxes. And I'm sure some of us have those extensions on our VS Code or our what's the name of that one that Olix gave me recently? Our VS Code majority of the time. So it kind of like underlines. Please always use extensions, especially when you are dealing with certain programming language. Look for the extensions or the error, the linter for that programming language. It helps you to be able to get a clear insight if you have a syntax error in your code. Even before the code runs, you will see a red line. So, and then majority of the time, it will suggest to you what the right one is. And so I also want to check the code if it can be successfully synthesized into CloudFormation. And so you have the CDK synth command to do that. So if this fails, then the issue is likely the CDK code logic, right? And you also want to do CDK diff, which compares local changes with the deployed stack, and then it highlights to you what changes are inside of that. And lastly, or no, maybe before the last one, you want to expect the CloudFormation template. So check the synthesized CloudFormation templates with in cdk.out directory for any misconfigurations, if there's any misconfigurations or whatever. And then if the error is related to cloud deployments, then you have to validate. There's a command to validate the template using it. I think it's the AWS CloudFormation validate template. It helps you to validate your CDK and the templates that it has been synthesized to in CloudFormation, and then you can easily figure out something. You want to check IAM permissions. You want to investigate CloudFormation events as well. You want to maybe do a rollback and retry again, and then you also maybe want to enable verbose. So verbose would give you more detailed log that you can use for debugging as well too. And of course, check your dependencies, and there's just a whole lot, but majority of the time, that's the step-by-step process I would go in doing this. If you want me to help you debug this thing, you just say it, yeah. But yeah, that's pretty much what I can say on that.
Awesome. Thank you very much. I think we have one more person that wants to ask a live question.
All right.
So let's just take that and we get to end the session there. Thank you very much.
Hi, Bob. So, thank you for everything. That I want to ask a question. Share
Sure,
it.
please.
So, like I made mention of the earlier on before we started. Like I've been working on AWS, this text to speech kind of stuff, converting handwritten text to that's voice kind of audio. So like I've been trying to make it of this Amazon text alert service. So I don't know. I want to give probably best advice or an opinion that you have that I can use to leverage on these tools to just get this thing done. I don't know if you get my question.
Amazon what?
Text alert.
To get your text to speech implementation.
Yes, text alert. Yes.
To get your text to speech this thing.
Yes.
And so I feel like the first question I'll ask you is like, what do you currently have implemented? And do you have, are you running it with IaC, or are you running it manually?
I'm actually for now I'm running it manually.
If I want to,
So
I'll probably ask you why.
that's like I don't know. That's kind of a lot of stress and a lot of work.
Yes, it
So
is. And
a lot of work.
I can
A
bet you
lot
that
of
if you want to reproduce the same thing, you'd most likely enter into one error or the other, right? And
honestly.
so
So
I would say start from the basics, start from networking. Yeah, you don't need to stop, the one that you're already doing, but you also want to, as you are building further in that, you also want to start building your IaC. And not just because of you, right? I always tell my guys, even some of them are here, I say document as much as possible, because apart from for you, you would also need it. I can tell. I got an AWS community manager sports maybe sometime maybe last 3 years or so, and the reason why I got it was because what you know I documented what I used to do, right? And so basically I'll say start from the basics, networking and whatever thing. Then I don't know if you would want to use CloudFormation or you want to use Terraform. Either ways, you have resources that are available for you to do it, right? I'm not sure the specific use case of your. I've not really used text to text extract, so of course there are a whole lot of resources on AWS, and so I've not really used text extract, but I'm sure that there are resources that you can use leverage on in Terraform, or even CloudFormation to be able to spin that up for you. And of course, we have AI now, makes it really easy, for us to be able to get things. But again, I think I really like that you are trying to build manually first, because it gives you a granular insight into components that are even necessary for that application to run. Because there's a way that, because IaC can be a bit declarative, and so you don't really understand what it is doing in the background to give you the result, right? But with doing it manually, you get an insight into that, and in fact, you understand even IaC better. And so, yeah, I would say you're on the right track. But before you go too further, try to start building the basics for your IaC too, and write documentation for us so that we can read it as well too.
right. Thank you very much.
And that's impressive. I
Also,
really like it's like that.
awesome. I mean, that's so much input and so much insight into what we could actually get to achieve making use of IaC. And we cannot thank our speaker enough for the justice he has done as regards giving us great insight into what can be accomplished making use of IaC. Once again, I want to say thank you so much for coming on to give us great insights into infrastructure as a code, leveraging on infrastructure as a code services on AWS. Thank you very much, and really appreciate that time you've taken to do this. Thank you very much.
Thank
So
you.
we'll just be moving into the next section, which is more or less the hands-on because of our time. So I'll be sending in an AWS link to the chat that we get to have the hands-on section on. Okay, yes. So I'll be sending that link now to the chat so we can, for those that actually, we can actually get to start sign up on that and get to set up our the workshop in itself. So let's get started. So the workshop basically is more or less for us to be able to experiment with infrastructure as a code service, making use of CloudFormation, AWS CloudFormation, and AWS CDK. So we'll be starting first of all with the AWS CloudFormation. So what we'll be doing basically is provisioning of an S3 bucket, making use of AWS CloudFormation, and copying files as well to that S3 bucket. So I'll be sending the link for the workshop so we can actually get started. So for those that are online as well, we send the links, both links to the chat, so you can actually get to pick that up and join us. So we'll be discontinuing the live session. Thank you all for joining us, and have a lovely day. Thank you.